all the other minimum wage jobs that I had, my whole experience was having recognition that was not very favorable. And when I got into the network marketing industry, every little thing that I did right, I was applauded and hugged and given those warm fuzzies, but I still didn't have any success in my experiences to those first three companies until I got to be a part of Legal Shield. And I like to say I literally had success with Legal Shield on accident. And it was because I used the service. It was because I used the service. It was because I used the service, and then I told people about it and they became a member and they used the service. And then they came back to me and they said, oh my gosh, I used the service. And that made me feel even more successful. And, I trotted away my first couple of years in this business, really not having a whole lot of clue of what I was doing. I kind of just went along for the journey. I showed up at the weekly meetings. I went to all the events. I never missed an event in those first couple of years. And I still never really felt confident in what I was doing. I still never really felt confident in being the business owner because, my mindset when I first got started back in 1998 is that I was a failure, that everything I'd ever done had gone wrong, and that I wasn't a business person, right? I was a bartender. I'd kind of like put myself in that box. And so I'm here to tell you, and I'm really glad that I was asked to share on this subject because it really wasn't until I was able to kind of get into the social media aspect of it and kind of engage with people on my own terms, like from home, from my computer, that everything really started to change. Now, I will tell you that I'd reached the top level of Platinum Executive Director based on team. I'd never opened a group until actually 2020. So I, had 4 executive director legs. I think I was the second female in the company behind Kathy Aaron to ever do that, but I only did it for 1 month. I earned my gold pin. I lived at gold for years and years and years and years. And that was because of the great success of, the 3 guys on my team that stuck and stayed. And I am the poster child for having done everything wrong. And I mean that very sincerely. And I'm being very transparent with all of you. If you're new, if you've been here for a while and things just haven't clicked for you, I'm just telling you my story. And my story is that I had done everything wrong. It's crazy to me. I hit platinum because of other people. I stayed at gold because of other people. The income that I earned really was because of other people. But once my son was born, as a matter of fact, before my son was born, when you become a parent, everything changes. And when my son was about to be born, because of the circumstances that I was a single mom and very pregnant, and I really couldn't get out, I really didn't want to get out. At that time, Facebook was coming around, and my mom is the one who actually introduced me to Facebook. And so I kind of learned my way through making every mistake that you can make in operating social media. And what I'm going to share with you here is how I've been able to have my very best, most productive years consistently because of social media, what I've done, what I recommend that you don't do because of my own mistakes. And I'm sharing with you through my own trials and errors of what not to do. And I'm just going to get into the information because I created this slideshow back in 2014. It's kind of funny. I was at the time I was introduced. I introduced this information via a convention called the Believers and Achievers. It was in 2014. At that time, I was serving as the regional vice president, which is like a network vice president for the state of Texas. And it was just little old me from home running the whole state of Texas. And again, kind of failing my way through that as well, figuring it out as I went. And I was asked to teach on social media, because at that time I had been, with Facebook a couple of years, and I had quite an audience at that time, and I'd figured out how to do a couple different things here and there. And I was doing this training in Orlando at the same time that Kai Deering was doing it in Las Vegas. And you'll see the very last slide here is my numbers based on exactly what was happening there in October of 2014 compared to now. And so how can I get this so that it shows me? Let's see, let me do this. See, I'm still not all that techie. You don't have to be techie. And I apologize. These slides actually have our team name up in the top right corner. That's just because I used them last for our team event. But what social media gives you the power of doing is not replace what you're already doing. It doesn't replace networking in your community. It doesn't replace, connecting with people on a one-on-one basis via the phone or via email, or if you're in a networking event right now. Specifically over the last couple of years, because of COVID and because of all the restrictions, social media has been an awesome opportunity for all of us to kind of carry on doing what we've always done, but just transferring it from in person to online. It gives us the ability to harness that 24/7 power of connecting with people and really having an online presence, which means that you're not just confined to where you live, but you have the power of connecting to people all across North America, which is what I've done because of Facebook. I keep saying Facebook because that's what I use predominantly, but there's so many different social media sources that are out there. My good friend Daniel Fong, many of you probably know him. If you're on Facebook, he is fantastic. And my goodness, he has really crushed it in the TikTok world. I have an account there, but I'm a little bit intimidated about starting to make videos. But I have an account and I've amassed some followers basically because of my Facebook presence. But Daniel Fong has been able to really build up a huge following on TikTok with something like 80,000 likes so far already. I know a lot of folks here even are on LinkedIn. I write articles. I like their platform for that. I just share a story there every day, but LinkedIn really isn't my scene. It's not fun enough for me. I like to be able to engage and have fun and crack jokes. And if you're my friend on Facebook, you know that that's primarily what I do most of. Twitter, I still haven't really learned. I haven't figured it out. I mentioned I kind of go long, in the very beginning of this training. And because I go long, Twitter never really worked for me because I can't do everything 149 characters. Instagram, a lot of my friends are on Instagram. I have an account. I have an account on Twitter. I have an account on Pinterest. I have a Snapchat. I have accounts here, but where I have focused my time is where I feel the most comfortable, which is Facebook. And if you feel the most comfortable in any one of these different social media platforms, that's where I recommend you spend your time, because the most important thing about connecting with people is feeling really comfortable where you're at, right? So here's a couple of things to avoid. And, these aren't new. I didn't make them up, but I can tell you that in my experience, building up a following of people that are going to pay attention to what you say and are going to believe what you say, and most importantly, are going to grow to know, like, and trust you on social media, which is what's most important, because people buy from who they know, like, and trust, right? For people to know, like, and trust you, this is what I'm going to recommend. You've got, and I know this is kind of hard, it's always hard for me to say this, but the most important thing is leading with your best foot forward, right? And on social media, it's leading with your best fingers. And that means, spell checking your work, making sure that everything is grammatically correct, making sure that you are being who you are and authentic. And so for those that might have couples pages, John and Jane Doe, for example, use that for your personal page, but don't mention anything to do with business on those. Create your own accounts, because, it's awkward for someone that wishes, I wish a birthday message to everyone every day. One of the first things I do in the morning after I write out my goals and after I do the things that I want to do, my I am statements and my reading 10 pages a day and all of that myself personally, I go on Facebook and the first thing that I do is I wish everyone a happy birthday. And it's awkward to go to someone's page and go, oh, am I wishing John or Jane a happy birthday? I'm not sure. If John or Jane reply to me, for example, I don't know who I'm speaking to. So it's really important that you have your own page. It's really important that you don't air your personal drama or turn your Facebook page or your social media presence into like an online reality show. That's not cool. People don't go on to social media to be sucked into anyone else's drama. They go on there to be entertained, really. They go on there to be informed, to be inspired. Don't trash talk other people, or don't trash talk any other companies, kind of in that same line. And don't be the source of constant bummer news. We can turn to the actual news for that, right? Prospecting before saying hello. This is a big one. That's a mistake that I see a lot of folks make. And that is where you make connections with people before you get to know them, before they've had a chance to get to know, like, or trust you. You're automatically, bombarding them with links into their inbox, and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know who you are. Don't be that person, right? All business and no fun, or a lack of sincerity. If people feel like you're constantly trying to portray some sort of a facade of who you'd like to be, but not who you actually are, they're never going to learn to trust you, or as a result, like you. And then posting your link, of course, on anyone else's page. Now, anything else that you have up there other than your own profile photo, like a cat or a dog or a car or a dream house, is going to also help people, not take the time to get to know, like, or trust you, because they can't even see your face. And so these are all things that I would avoid. And I have profanity and politics and religion. I have those asterisks. If I had more time with you, all of you, I would go into a whole lot more detail. But I would say this, because if you're my friend on Facebook, you already know that I kind of break the rule on that. But I have been willing to maybe lose a couple of people in stating my opinion, whether it's regards to politics or maybe religion, or maybe even dropping a bad word here and there. But I have done that with that risk in mind. And as a result, I may have lost 300 people or so over the last 5 years, but I've gained another 1,500 following. So it's important that you understand that if you're not willing to lose people, then you want to steer clear of those subjects right there. And so what to do? Here's what to do. Follow Legal Shield's corporate, social media guide for sure. Social media is not going away. And so I would embrace it wholeheartedly. If you haven't yet, find a way. Learn one of the different platforms. You don't have to learn all of them. Just pick one that makes the most sense to you and get really good at it. Okay. Figure it out as you go. Don't focus on your initial results, because just like anything, like networking with people in person, networking with people, at a networking event, you're gonna fail your way to the top. And same as online. You're gonna learn to network online. I constantly visit the people who have maybe liked one of my Legal Shield stories, for example, and I put them on my little list. I asterisk them so that when they post something, it shows up in my news feed. And again, I would go into more detail on this if I had more time, but once someone like engages with one of my Legal Shield posts, for example, and I'll go into more detail about that in a second here, I put them on my radar. And so I go over, and if they post a picture of their child, I comment on how cute that child is. And of course, I think all children are cute. If they experience a new milestone in their life, I comment like, wow, that's great. Congratulations. I engage with them, not for the sake just only of Legal Shield, but to get to know them, to get to know their family, to get to know what inspires them, what motivates them, so that when they're finally ready to have a conversation with me about Legal Shield, I already know where they're coming from. Always be authentic. And I think that's so important. I think in this world of social media, in this world of Instagram, where there's so many filters, right? It's so important to be who you are, and don't try to be someone that you're not. Don't try to pretend that you're something that you're not, because no matter how good you think that you're being at that filter, people see through it. And so always be who you are. And remember that people buy from who they know, like, and trust, and then play team online. Whenever, like, for example, Timmer and I walked across the stage together for the very first time when they first recognized $50,000 ring earners. And this is back in April of 2014. And I know specifically because following that, I had a pretty rough year. I had a pretty rough year of being ill from that convention there in Las Vegas. But I got to know Timmer during that particular stage walk, and he was the nicest guy. He was so authentic. He was so gracious with everyone around him. And I didn't know who he was, but I got to know him that time. And so ever since, whenever I see him on social media, I make sure that I like his stuff. I comment on his stuff. I play team, right? When Steve or Linda Beck or when Danny Godin or John Drennan or any of the people, Jane Lehman, any of you that like post on here, because I want to play team with you, I always try to like and comment and support your content because that's how we can all play team together. When we get the likes and the comments on our own posts, then that boosts them in the news feed so that our friends see them more often. And then here's my results. Okay. You can see that from October 2014, what's on the left that is not highlighted in yellow, that is what I originally shared in Orlando at the Believers and Achievers event there in October 2014. And then now, that's in yellow. And I'm not here to say I'm like a top producer or anything. I've never been a top producer. I've never won anything in Legal Shield ever. But you know what? I being honest, and I never tried. I am not that competitive person. I am not a type A personality. I am a lifestyle. I'm all about being a single full-time stay-at-home mom. I homeschool Avery these last 2 years, and that takes up the majority of my time. I have 2 dogs. I like to enjoy my life. And so I am not a go-getter. However, based on just what I do, based on what you can physically see that I do on my personal page, because everything that I do is public, again, authenticity, transparency, everything that I do it's resulted in these numbers here. And you can see at the very top, all I do is I post content. I am not poaching anybody's inbox. I am not going after people and saying, hey, let me send you this link. Hey, are you open to an opportunity? Do you keep your income options open? I'm not doing that. I am posting content. And then once people approach me and say, hey, can you tell me more about that? Then I share some information with them, because once they've given me permission to engage with them, that's when I do it. And so you can see my numbers have grown, tenfold in the last 7 years. And I haven't even tried. I tried other than just like posting a story a day. And that's the majority of what I do. I have probably, 300-400 different Legal Shield stories, member stories of the day that I've collected over the years. I have them on a huge Google Doc. Steve, Timmer, John, whomever, I've posted them publicly on the Legal Shield Associate support page. I'm happy to share them with you guys if you want to, feature them on your page or whatever. I post a story a day. That's what I do. It's not fancy. I don't even add a photo. Matter of fact, I intentionally don't add a photo. I intentionally don't add some like preceding, personal thoughts or anything about the story. And I'll tell you why. The reason is because when you have a post, you have that much that's visible. And if you put member story of the day and you add a space, then you're only including maybe 1 line or 2 of that member story. But what I have found is that when you just post a story and people have 8 or 9 lines to read before they have to click on read more in their newsfeed, they're more likely to click on read more because they're already invested in the story. And so little tips like that are what I share in my full social media training. But I have enrolled more lately than I ever had before, working harder. So what I'm saying is that I'm working smarter now because I'm leveraging social media. At the very bottom, you can see, aside from the fact that I have better communication with everyone that's on my team, better communication with all of my existing members who are now referring me like crazy, because every time I post a member story, they're reminded of why they want to use their membership. And even if they're not interested in the opportunity themselves, they're referring people like, crazy to me. 2020, when everything was shut down, the whole world stopped. 2020 became my biggest personal production year ever. And it was just because I was doing the same thing that I had always done. The biggest difference was probably more people were in my audience. More people were less busy because they were all home and they were paying more attention to what I was posting because they were there to see it. 2021, because we just finished our, numbers and all of that, 2021 was my biggest year by more than 20% over my previous biggest year, which was 2020. And again, all I'm doing is posting stories. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to be on this Zoom with all of you. And I think that you all are an awesome team. Let's see, stop share. There we go. I appreciate the time here this evening. I know I went a couple of minutes long, and so I apologize for that. And Steve, I'll turn it back over to you.
Oh my God, Tara, so many nuggets. I don't know where to start. So rather than try to summarize everything you said, I'm just going to point out one thing. You talked about authenticity. You talked about finding a platform that you're comfortable on, which I think leads to you being authentic on that platform. And the other thing you mentioned was don't always be about business. Tara and I have known each other through Facebook for a few years now, but we have not been in the same room at the same time. I hope to rectify that in April in Oklahoma City. But I have watched Avery grow up. I've seen a lot of cute pictures of her dogs, Jack and Scotch. And just if you're not already friends with Tara, find her on Facebook. I can estimate that there are probably not a whole lot of Tara Paustenbachs. So if you'll do a search, you'll find her. And the stories, I have stolen a few over the years and to great success. So I want to thank you for your friendship. I want to thank you for being here with us tonight. Everybody with your cameras on, how about a big round of applause?
Thank you, guys. And you can find my personal page because I've got two business pages, but you can find my personal page at facebook.com/go to Tara because everyone misspells my last name. So go to Tara and you'll find me.
Great. Thanks again. So as Tara alluded to, we did go a couple of minutes long. I don't believe anybody's going to complain about that. It was well worth the extra time, but we do still want to go through our motivational moment real quickly. And for that, I'd like to introduce from one of the Dakotas, and I always guess wrong, so I won't. Phyllis Martins.
Right, from Rapid City. And Tara, great information. I've always heard whatever happens on social media kind of stays there forever. You can never get rid of it. And so one thing to try and remember when we're posting, whether it's personal or business, is keep in mind an acronym called THRIVE. And is it true? Will it be helpful? Is it realistic, inspiring, valuable, or encouraging? And the one thing I need to do is make some changes to my social media. And as we go forward with our social media, from everything that we've learned from Tara, let's keep in mind the comment that I found from author and speaker Dave Willis. And he said, don't use social media to impress people, use it to impact people. And I think with Tara's information, we can do more of that. So back to you, Steve.
Outstanding, Phyllis. Thank you. That ties in so beautifully with what Tara was telling us about tonight. So we will close out as we do by reaching into the video vault.